a partner who is helpful and responsive. That's important. It matters. And it's not enough. Listen, having a spouse who helps when you need to, who responds and shows up when you ask, does not equal a real partnership. And the myth that it does, that's what we're cracking open today. Welcome, my friends, to another Catalyst conversation for relationship revolution. Here, we challenge the unquestioned assumptions about love, life, and leadership, disrupting the patterns that have been keeping you stuck and revealing the truths that no one's taught you. Here, we activate new ways of leading relationships, love, partnership, leadership in every area of our life. And we do that with consciousness and courage. And we do that differently. Dare I say, better. And my goal, my hope, my dream is that each of you, all of us, get to have the kind of relationships and life that most people only dream of. This episode kicks off a new series, one that I think this is our second or third year maybe doing this series. And I call it May Myths. Okay. So the idea in this month is to spend each of these Catalyst conversations dismantling the stories, the untrue stories, right? The myths, the beliefs that are not real, but that we've been told that are quite prominent about our relationships. These are beliefs and ideas, expectations, assumptions that sound very reasonable. They're the ones who maybe have come from people who love us. They are the myths that, if we're not aware of them, if we're not dismantling them, they are quietly keeping you stuck, overloaded, lonelier, and less happy than we need to be. Here's what I know to be true. You can't build the relationship that you deserve if it's built upon foundations of beliefs or assumptions about relationships that were never actually working or meant to serve you and your happiness and fulfillment. And so this month, we are going to start telling the truth about some of those myths. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you found this. Ready? Let's get into it. Here's what I want you to really sit with before we go any further. You're probably exhausted. Maybe not physically exhausted, but mentally, emotionally, energetically exhausted. Because if you're anything like me or the other high-achieving women I work with, when do you actually get a real break, right? Maybe you're not doing too much, but maybe you are. But there's something else. There's something more than what you're doing, my friend, that is draining you, that is keeping you in this ever-present state of just tired and wanting a break. It's the way that you're paying attention. Not just the doing of the tasks, but the paying attention to all of the tasks that need to be done, right? You are holding the entire map of your household, your relationship, your family's needs, your partner's emotional world in your head, your emotional world in your head, your freaking business, all of that at the same time. And at some point, hopefully, you're asking your partner to help carry some of this load, right? To help you out. And if you've got a decent spouse, they are, right? They're showing up, they're responding, they're helping you out. And again, I'm coming back to this. That's not good enough, right? That's not the goal that you should have a spouse or a partner who just shows up for you and helps you out when you need to offload some of the stuff. And I say that gently and lovingly, but I also need to say that really directly, because The myth is that that is enough, that if we have a partner who shows up for us, who's there for us when we ask, who does the things that we need them or ask them to do, that we've got a great partnership. Listen, let me ask you something. If you were to guess, how many things are on your mental list right now? I'm talking about the list that lives in your head, love, right? The one that no one asked you to make, it's the one that you certainly didn't volunteer to carry. It's the list of the dinners that you're planning to make for the week and which ones you had last week, so you're not repeating the same dinner too often, right? It's the kid's permission slip that's due on Friday and which teacher it needs to go to. It's the fact that you're almost out of a specific kind of bagel for the family. Um, and you know you need to get that one before the weekend, or otherwise you're going to have people who are upset and complaining because there's nothing to eat in the house, right? This is the list of the things that you need to talk about with your partner, the check-in that you started 3 weeks ago but that got tabled because life, right? Or the birthday party gift for your mother-in-law, or what is in the produce of your fridge that needs to get eaten before it goes bad, right? That list. And I could go on, clearly, right? There are so many examples of this. And let me ask you something else. Do you know how many things are on your partner's list? If you could guess just at the difference in proportion, what do you think would happen? I actually was talking about this in my supervision group this week, and one of my supervisees shared that she actually sat down with her husband, and they decided that they were going to make these lists. She stopped at 110 things that she was paying attention to, not because there weren't more, not because the list was finished, but because she got tired of writing it down. When they compared, guess how many her husband's list were, like how many things were on her husband's list that he's paying attention to? 3, y'all. 3. Yeah. And here's the part that's gonna that like I think is probably gonna resonate. Her husband isn't a bad guy, right? He's not lazy. He wasn't checked out. He was, by every measure, a helpful spouse. He shows up when he's asked. He does what's requested. He loves his wife and his kids, and he tries to be the best husband he can. He's responsive. And again, that responsiveness, that helpfulness, that's not partnership. Because here's what we're not talking about. When she has to ask, she's already doing the work. She already noticed the need. She already assessed the situation. She already decided who should handle it and how, and then she needs to delegate. That's labor. That's work. And she's done all of that, as I'm sure that you do, before he steps in and helps. That's helpfulness. That's not partnership. That's project management. And you probably get to be the project manager of everything, right? Nobody gave us that title as women. We just become it by default because patriarchy. Because patriarchy socializes men to believe that their job is to support her with her duties, and socializes women to believe that that's true too. Now, I'm using men and women to talk generally. I want to give my disclaimer, of course, that patriarchy affects the masculine and the feminine. It shows up in all kinds of relationship dynamics, no matter what end of the feminine masculine energy spectrum you fall on, or if you're non-binary or fluid. It affects all of us, no matter what body we're in, right, or how we identify. So I imagine that if you have identified as somewhere in the feminine leaning spectrum, that this is probably connecting with you, right? And I think this really matters. This conversation is so important because this invisible labor doesn't just make us tired. Okay. It does. It definitely drains our energy, but it also makes us lonely and resentful and slowly, quietly stop wanting to come home to someone who loves us but can't see us, can't see what we're carrying, can't see all the things that need to be attended to. This is the kind of thing that can and will slowly erode relationships. And that's what's at stake here, right? It's not the grocery list. It's not the mess that was left on the counter. It's the intimacy, the partnership, the us, where we're both in this together. All right, so I know I'm pretty deep in this conversation already, and I haven't even introduced myself. So I'm gonna like put a pin in it there because I have more I want to share about this, including a look at the way out. But before I go further, let me introduce myself to those of you who are new to me and my work. My name is Dr. Jeni Wahlig. I am an award-winning relationship mentor, speaker, author, intuitive guide, and I am a relationship revolutionary. Proudly. My mission is to revolutionize how humanity thinks about and goes about their relationships and to redefine what it means to love so that we may all experience the true power and possibilities that relationships have to offer. Because nothing, truly nothing, impacts the quality of our lives more than the quality of our relationships. And we are in relationship all the time, in every corner of our lives. They are the infrastructure upon which we are trying to build everything, right? But most of us have never learned how to do our relationships well, let alone how to lead them consciously and relationally, especially when they get hard or when we're not happy about how some piece of our relationships is going. Plus, a lot of what we have learned, as we are talking about this month, not only doesn't work, it is part of what's keeping people stuck and unhappy. So this revolution that I'm talking about is a great global healing through love. It is a return from separation into wholeness, a paradigm shift in how humanity relates, loves, and leads, starting at the most intimate level. And in these catalyst conversations, my goal isn't just to give you insight, it's to wake something up within you so that you too may be part of this revolution. If you want to help me activate and yes, accelerate this global movement, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Share about our work, attend our events, and of course, keep doing your part to lead with love in every area of your life. If you're looking for support for yourself, there's a number of ways that we can support you. When I say we, I talk about me and my partner, Calvin, who's the co-founder of Powerful Love Relationships. I'll talk about two of those ways at the end of this episode, the Relationship Revolutionary Community and the Third Path. But either way, regardless of why you're here, if you're just here to understand the breakdown of this myth, I'm glad that you are. So if you're ready, let's go deeper. So, as you know, the myth that we're dismantling today is the myth of the helpful spouse, right? One who shows up when asked, who does their fair share when directed, who's loving and responsive, who's a good partner, who says, just tell me what to do and I will do it. And they do. But that's not the goal. That if you can, just ask or communicate clearer or make a list more organized, that you'll get what you need, like that costs us so much more than most of us realize. And the idea that that's enough, that that's what we're aiming for, keeps the bar low and keeps us in that energy drain, in that lack of fulfillment, in the building resentment, and frankly, in a lack of desire. Like that's a real thing, because in the overload of all the things we're thinking about and having to do and paying attention to and our exhaustion, a lot of women find that their desire for intimacy or connection like drops. It's a lot of pressure on the brakes. But I'm going down a tangent. So let's talk about what's really happening, right? I want you to take a moment to just like think about something. Picture the ideal partner, the one you've fantasized about having, right? They're not just helpful, are they? They're aware. They know what kind of bread your family buys. They already know which kids like which toppings on their pizza or how long it's been since you've had pizza. They've looked at the calendar on Sunday and noticed that Tuesday is going to be chaos, and they already adjusted their schedule so they can be available to share the load. They notice when you're stressed before you say a word to them, and they don't just ask, "Are you okay?" They sit down with you. They listen. They offer comfort, reassurance, acknowledgement without needing you to manage their discomfort about your discomfort. They notice when it's been a while since you two have really connected, and they bring it up gently with curiosity, asking what they can do. And when they have their own feelings and frustrations, they initiate those conversations themselves instead of stuffing it and assuming everything's fine or waiting for you to notice and pull them out of it. They see things. They're paying attention with you. They take ownership of this as our family, our house, our relationship, and they recognize that they are just as responsible for ensuring that everything goes smoothly and everything's taken care of as you are. That is a different kind of relationship, isn't it? And correct me if I'm wrong, but something in me tells me that those are the kinds of things that you have been secretly wishing for, longing for, fantasizing about finally getting to have, and frustrated and resentful when you don't. Okay? This is not that what I just described, that's not a helpful spouse. It is an attuned partner. And that difference, my friend, is the revolution, or a big part of it. Okay? So I want to come back to the story that I shared earlier about my supervisee because it deserves its full weight, right? 110 things. My supervisee stopped at 110, not because the list was done, but because she was done writing. And his list had 3. Now, before you make him the villain of this story, because he's not, and this is really important, like in all of these catalyst conversations, and in any of the work that I do, if you've been following me at all, or if you're paying attention now and you'd start, I'm always going to bring it back to where our power is. I'm always coming back to this idea that we are each responsible for our part in the dance and can change the dance by changing ourselves. And that a huge part of this revolution is moving from me versus you, the good guy, the bad guy, the victim and the villain, and like put all that shit aside and come back into partnership, come back into us. Okay. So preface that. So her husband is not a villain in this story, right? He was a good guy. Like I said, he wasn't being neglectful. He was being helpful. He hadn't been paying attention because nobody told him to, because the system, patriarchal conditioning, tells men that their job is to be the provider and the supporter, not the noticer. So this has not been part of his conditioning. And that same system has trained her, right, my supervisee, without her consent, to be the default keeper of everything. This is not inherently like masculine, feminine. This is not inherently man, woman, husband, wife, right? Like this is an impact of a system, right? Our individualistic, patriarchal system that does not work for our relationships. So it's a system failure. It's not a personal one. It's not a relational one. It's a system failure. But it requires both people to see it in order to revolutionize our relationships. I think that's really important. Here's another thing I want to name about this, though. The reason why so many women don't bother trying to change this dynamic, even when they see it, is because trying to transfer it, right? Trying to transfer this mental load ends up being more work than just doing it ourselves. Ask me how I know. Tell me if I am wrong, right? Like, think about this. So, okay, I need to give you some context before I ask you to think about it. So, this is a convoluted story, but I was watching a reel that was an evaluation of an influencer who teaches young boys how to be better men. This is awesome. And the reel I was watching critiqued him because he was at the grocery store teaching his son not only to help with to do the grocery shopping to help mom, but to make sure that you're getting the right things, right? So apparently he had told this young boy that, like, we need to call mom, and don't be surprised if you're making a call to mom or to your wife 10 times while you're grocery shopping to make sure that you're getting the right things. So on the surface, right, this is maybe helpful. He's trying, he cares, he's teaching his son to care, not just about doing the task, but about getting it right, which is another tangent I'm not going to go super far down right now, but I am going to come back to that. And not only did the wife in this example have to make the whole list of groceries first, now she has to be available to answer these phone calls or these text messages, right? So she literally had to do everything. And it's not just about knowing what brands are in the pantry or what food is missing. Like it takes recognizing what dinners are coming up and what special occasions are coming up that we might need different ingredients for, like, bringing a snack to the kids' school. It's again, like, remembering what dinners we've had recently. I know when I make the grocery or the meal list, I'm thinking about what proteins we're having and whether I'm putting beef 2 nights in a row, or if I can mix it up with a beef, chicken, pork, turkey, like switch up so that we're going to have some variety in our protein. I'm thinking about all that shit when I make the meal plan, when I make the grocery list, when I check what's in the pantry. That's so much work. How do I help Calvin learn all of that, do all of that? So even though, like, you may have a partner who wants to, it wants to not just help you, but wants to, like, step in and carry more of the mental load, you may find that you have some resistance in trying to transfer it, because sharing all of that information is a lot of work. And and I'm stuttering here, aren't I? Because I'm trying to think about where I want to go, how I want to say this. But there's the work of handing it off, and that is a lot of work. But there's also the work of, like, staying in the situation that you're in, like, because, like, then you're either doing it all yourself or you are in the moment trying to, like, delegate some tasks. You're being that manager, and then not only are you delegating, then you're managing to make sure everybody gets it right. Feels heavy. I'm just gonna shake it off. Okay, so there, like, it's interesting because when I was talking about this with my supervisees, I didn't at first have, like, a quick answer for what the solution is, but I'm an external processor. So I was processing this externally, and as I started to become aware of, like, okay, wait, this is the path. This is how we revolutionize this shit. And aware of this myth, no longer wanting our relationship to run by it. This is how we create change. And I want to be honest with you. If you're thinking that the solution is to just get your partner to start noticing things, or, like, ask him to start paying attention more, it's not going to work. here's what I know from nearly 20 years of working with couples, my friend, and from living this in my own partnership with Calvin. This shift is possible, but it is not a quick fix. Okay. There's programming here that needs to be dismantled and reprogrammed. There's conditioning here. There's a learning curve. But it starts with making the implicit explicit, okay? Which means making the things that are happening underneath the surface on default, on autopilot, like visible, bringing them into our consciousness, starting to talk about them. Because most of the time, this mental load imbalance doesn't happen because anybody chose it. It happened by default. She became the noticer because she's the one who noticed. He became the helper because he was waiting to be asked. And nobody sat down and designed this system. Nobody sat down and decided, okay, you're going to be in charge of this, and you let me know when I can help. Right? That was not a conscious choice. They just fell into it because, again, patriarchy, right? So the first step is naming what's actually happening. Make that list like my supervisee did, not to weaponize it, okay? But to become aware of it, right? This is not to be used as evidence in the court of your relationship of how you are the victim and your partner is the villain, okay? We're not going there. What we're doing is bringing consciousness. You may have heard me share before the power formula, which is like the through line of just about everything that I do in the work I do with couples. Awareness is choice is power. When we have awareness about something, we have choice about how we want to respond to it. And it is only when we have the ability to consciously choose our response that we have the power to consciously create what it is that we're looking for or wanting to experience in our lives. Okay. We can't change what we can't see. So we got to start seeing it. One thing that I did with a client that I was working with when we were having this conversation that I remembered as I was talking to my supervisees was we actually like played with assigning a default parent, right? So they made a little flip sign, and on one side there was like today's parent is mommy, and the other side today's parent is daddy. And whoever was the designated parent that day was the one paying attention first, the one taking initiative first, the one who the kids had to go to. So even if, dad was the default parent and they go to mom because this is what children do. I don't know if you know this, but even if I'm in the middle of doing all the things, I'll be like washing dishes or prepping food, a kid will come and ask me for help with something. And Cal will be like right there, scrolling his phone or, just talking to one of the other kids, and they won't ask him. And he'll be like, hello, what am I, chopped liver? There's a second parent here. So for this couple that I was working with, right? But like if the kids did that, it was like, no, I'm not the parent. I'm not the primary parent tonight. Go ask dad first. Okay, and what this did is it made the explicit implicit. It interrupted the pattern of the whole family system. And it gave the other parent an opportunity to step up because they had to. Because the system that this couple created within their family, when they did change this move in the dance, right? It made it clear that it was their turn to pay attention. And so they started practicing that. But it wasn't like wife was evaluating him and, this is all the time, every time. It was like, okay, tonight's my night to practice. These are practical moves and they work. Right. And I want to be clear, they're not the whole picture. By the way, I have no idea how long I've been talking right now because I can't see where my timer is. So, 29 minutes. Okay, good. so good. I feel like I've been rambling a lot. So explicit, implicit, really important. Here's the piece though, that I think even when couples try to do this gets missed. And it is your part in this revolution, my love. You, the woman who's already carrying this mental load. Me, the woman who is you. Okay. And I need to name this directly because I believe in you enough to be very real with you. It is going to take more effort up front for you to transfer the mental load. It's going to feel unfair because it fucking is unfair. You didn't create the system. you didn't sign up for this imbalance, and yet you're going to have to do some heavy lifting, especially in the beginning, to undo it. I know it sucks. And I'm sorry. I wish I could say something different. I wish I had a magic wand or magic solution that makes this equitable. It's not. And if you don't do this extra heavy lifting in the process of transferring, you're going to be stuck doing this mental labor and living in this imbalance for the rest of your life. And the cost of that, well, we've already talked about it, so I'm not going to get into it again. Here's the thing. It's more work in the beginning, and it's more partnership in the long run. It's less work, less energy, less mental load in the long run. That's the trade. And I can tell you, because it's what I have been doing, or Cal and I have been doing for the past couple of years, I'd say. And it's not perfect. We just got into a thing last night about mental load. Probably because I was even more aware of it as I was preparing for this podcast and just coming off of the conversation with my supervisees. But regardless, right? Like, it came up again. So it's not a like one and done thing, but it's a journey and it's a process. And here's the thing. When I brought it up this time, as compared to previous times, Cal didn't shut down, didn't get defensive, it didn't turn into a fight, and he fucking knew what to do. Like, he didn't want to. I'm gonna call him out. Sorry, Cal, I love you. The kids needed micromanaging in their chores, because otherwise it takes them fucking forever, and then they're late going to bed. Earlier that day, actually, earlier last night, I had one of my kids, I was sitting down to finish up some work after dinner while they were doing dinner cleanup, because that's the kids' chore. They're old enough to do dinner cleanup now, which of course is something that I realized because I was doing all the dinner cleanup, and then I decided to assign to the kids, and then had to explain to Cal what the decision was and why the decision was, and invite him in to help me have that conversation. See, it still happens. But anyways, one of my kids, who didn't want to do his chores, wanted to just have fun and play video games with me, even though he could see I was working, came up and hugged me, and he was like, PJ, that's what my bonus kids call me, PJ, why can't you be like laid back, or he said relax. Why can't you be relaxed and fun like daddy? I'm like, dude, I'm different from dad, because to be fair, Cal is more relaxed and fun than me. And that's just like who I be. And I'm okay with that. I am got other great qualities that are not always relaxed and fun in the way that kids like to have fun. But Cal, wonderful. Anyways, and I'm like, I'm different from dad. He's like, can't you change? I'm like, baby, I like who I am. And he's like, please, BJ, why do you have to be so mean and strict? And I'm like, dude, I'm not mean and strict. I just ask people to do what they're supposed to do. I ask people to like live up to some standards. And he's like, well, your standards are too high. But so I'm a words of affirmation person. Even though this came from an 11-year-old, it still was like, why am I the mean one? Why am I the strict one? Because I'm doing like historically, I'm the one who's like, okay, guys, time for chores. Okay, guys, are you working on your chores? Like 3 times I had to say that, because kids, like my daughter came and she was like, hey, PJ, can I braid your hair? And I'm like, are your chores done? Nope. Thought I'd get away with it. It's like, hey, the twins were singing and dancing, and the kids were chasing each other up and down the stairs. And I'm like, and Cal was sitting right next to me. I'm like, hey guys, is yours done? No. Why am I the one paying attention and saying it? So I said something to Cal, and he's like, I don't want to manage them. And I'm like, but if you don't, I have to, because they are children and they need coaching to help them understand how they can be more efficient in doing their chores and work together so that they can actually do fun things before they have to go to bed. And and when I have to always be that person, I become the strict and mean one, and you get to be the fun and relaxed one. And that's not fair. But he got it. Okay. I didn't have to explain it to him. I didn't have to tell him what he needed to do then. He acknowledged me. He apologized. He got through his resistance and got up and went and did the thing and did it well in his own way. And I got to relax a little bit. I handed that load to him, but I didn't say, I need your help. I said, this is part of being a parent. And I don't want to be the one who's always doing it myself. That's partnership, right? Do you get that difference? Like, he's not helping me. I was telling him, like, hey, step up, partner. It's not just me who's responsible for this. And yeah, I still had to do the work of asking him. Okay. But again, I didn't have to explain it all. I didn't have to remind him of what needed to be done and what he needed to be paying attention to, because we'd been through that. I'd done that heavy lifting already. This wasn't the first conversation. And so it was a quick switch. And every time that you have a moment like that doesn't feel good, but every time it gives your partnership an opportunity to practice, because learning doesn't happen without practicing the skills. We could set the intention, we could say we're going to, but if you're not actually implementing it or in the moment recognizing when those patterns are coming up and you're defaulting, because that's what was happening. He was defaulting to not, and because he didn't want to, because it's annoying and hard and frustrating, and and he wanted to relax at the end of the day, but I didn't want to either. But somebody needs to, because we're parents, and that's right. Anyway, I'm going on for this, on this for a long time. My point is, yes, it's going to take extra work in the beginning, and it's going to pay off. Okay. But here's the other piece of this. And this is really important too, love. We have to let our spouse or partner do it differently than we do. We have to let them make mistakes. We have to let them drop the ball sometimes, and let the ball be dropped without swooping in and picking it up, because our partner needs to learn what it feels like when that happens. And we need to create enough safety that our partner or spouse wants to try. Because here's what's true about men in particular who were raised in this patriarchal system. Their sense of self-worth is tied to getting it right, which is exactly why that dad in the grocery store example I shared with you was calling mom 10 times to get the right apples, to get the right bread. He had to get it right, because when he doesn't, when we as women correct our masculine partners, and especially when we correct them with frustration or resentment or disappointment, when we come at them with the energy of, you're failing at this, why can't you do this right, you're getting it wrong, their nervous system is going to register that as a threat. And people who feel threatened, they shut down, they get defensive, they stop trying, they have invisible resistances that they're not even consciously aware of, that are keeping them away from doing the thing that is risky, which is doing something new, paying attention, going grocery shopping, right? Like, those are new, maybe. Like being more emotionally attuned to you and knowing how to respond in the way that you need. That's new. And our brains don't like new. New is unknown. New is scary. And if we could fail, if we could start conflict, if we could upset our partner, if we're not hitting the bar, if we find out we're not enough, that's fucking scary to nervous systems. And for men or masculine energy folks in particular, that's deeply, deeply scary. Non-consciously, they might not say that they're afraid of it, but like their identity, their sense of self-worth is tied to that. And that does not excuse his behavior, right? But what it is important information about your partner's nervous system. And it's useful information, love, because if you want your spouse to change, and this goes for any kind of change, right? For you to change, for them to change. If you want change to happen, we need to create conditions where change feels safe enough to try, which means making it okay to fail, making it okay to drop the ball, making it okay to do it differently than you would do. And I know that you know the right way to do it, the best way to do it, the most efficient way to do it, because you've been doing it forever. It's not the only way to do it. There are other ways, even if they're less efficient. Let your spouse figure that out. Let that be okay. That's part of our shit. I know, I deal with it too. But we're all here to own our own shit and do our part of the dance. This too is part of the revolution, right? We're not just like rebalancing imbalances in power dynamics in our partnerships. We're also moving away, again, like I mentioned earlier, from me versus you and into an us, into partnership, okay? Creating conditions of safety, it's not babying your partner. That's not what I'm talking about. We're not trying to just coddle them so they never feel hurt. I mean, they're gonna get upset when you give them feedback, and it's gonna happen, and that's okay. It's knowing this. It's becoming more conscious so you can choose how you're presenting feedback. You can think more critically about how they're responding, tell a different story about their defensiveness. This is relational leadership in action, love. This is a relationship revolution, right? It's what shifting from me versus you to us looks like, right? Even if this problem, which on the surface level feels like it's all about him needing to do more, needing to pay attention more, needing to be a real partner, the revolution lives in how you and your spouse or partner move toward that shifting together. Okay? Let me talk about what happens when you really start to get this. Okay? When both of you are paying attention, not just one of you managing and the other one helping, that weight you've been carrying that makes you so tired all the time, it starts to redistribute. Maybe not perfectly, maybe certainly not overnight, but it really, really does. I can't tell you how much less I am now carrying and paying attention to because I can trust that Cal is. Like, and you heard in my example, it's not perfect. It's still a work in progress, but that is still a lot more energy for me. And I get to put that energy toward my business, toward learning how to fucking relax because I'm not so stressed all the time. That's huge for me and my well-being and my quality of life. When we start doing this, when we start creating this shift in our relationship, we move from being the project manager of our family, of our relationship, and we start getting to be a real partner. And when you get to be a partner, you have the space to relax into your feminine. You have the space to find sanctuary in your partner's arms. You have the space to put things down and remember who you are. It's game changing, isn't it? Right? It's amazing how much energy we're really spending trying to remember all the things. I don't know about you. I use Google Keep, which is like an app that lets you keep several lists. And I have right now, I think 4 different lists going so I can organize my things that are in my head. But I've also got like lists on my Apple Notes app. And I also put lists in my paper calendar and there's a lot of shit that you're carrying and it drains your power and energy. But when you start truly partnering around some of that, not just asking for help, but having a real partner who owns the responsibility, the accountability for the success of the relationship, of the family, of the meals, of the business, of the finances, right? Like that energy returns. So does intimacy. It's hard to be intimate with somebody that you're secretly managing or that feels like another task or another kid, right? I mentioned that earlier, like that the sexual intimacy in particular really gets put on pause. That shit gets easier. And you can finally like feel together like a real us because you're being a real us. And that's what this revolution makes possible. So if this conversation is landing for you, if you have felt yourself in any part of what we talked about today, I want you to know that there is a next step that was made exactly for where you are right now. So let me tell you about them. First, I host a free masterclass. This is a new thing. I'm hosting a free masterclass called How to Finally Get Your Partner to Show Up the Way You've Been Asking Without Burning Yourself Out Trying to Make It Happen. Long name, I know, but I want you to know exactly what you're getting in this masterclass, right? I have decided to offer this class bi-weekly because I believe that every powerful woman deserves access to this shift. And it is my mission to help at least 1 million women have the most powerful and fulfilling relationships possible. So the link to register for the next live masterclass, and they really are live, right, is in the show notes. Go grab your spot. I'd love to see you there. Second, if you're ready for more than a masterclass, I am launching a brand new program called The Third Path. This is a 6-week group coaching program that the first cohort is going to begin May 11th. It's probably going to be the only time I'm doing the training part of this course live. So it's going to be a really special cohort. This is for the woman who wants that alternative path to to be able to actually change things, right? Where typically the choices are, do I just keep trying and spinning my wheels and resigning to this being how it is and staying in the struggle kind of thing, like status quo, or I guess I'm just going to have to leave because this shit is not changing. The third path is about staying and changing everything. And I'm going to show you exactly how. And it's not by doing more. It's not by asking better or lowering your standard. It is by leading the relationship with a kind of awareness and intentionality that actually shifts the whole dynamic. Cal and I built that program from our own lived experience and from countless client evidence from our work with our clients that it fucking works. So if you're interested in learning more about the Third Path program, I have a really special offer right now that's available just for this first cohort that starts May 11th. There may be other special offers for the program in the future. This is going to be a program that you can enroll in anytime. So just let me know, comment Third Path, and I will send you the details. And the third thing I want to share with you is if you're looking for ongoing community and support as you do this work, if you are committed to the constant growth and devotion to revolutionizing your relationship, then I would love to invite you to join us in the Relationship Revolution community. This is where women and the partners who love them, who are serious about leading their relationship, come to get supported, to be witnessed, to move this learning that we're doing here into the actual embodied practice, and be activated and held accountable and supported in that work every single week. So the link to learn more and join the Relationship Revolution community is also in the show notes. Listen, love, you don't have to do this alone. You just have to be willing to take the lead, to step in first. Anything that you dream of in your relationship, I truly believe is possible if you know the way. And I would love to help show it to you. If this conversation meant something to you and something like really landed, if you've got that little like, oh, that's what's been happening, I would be so honored if you left me a review or a comment about what you took away and what landed or how this impacted you. Even better, share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. And come find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Jeni Wahlig. Tell me again what I hit. Tell me how you found me. I read every message that comes through, and I genuinely love hearing from you. That's it for today, my friends. I will see you next week for another Catalyst conversation in the relationship revolution, where we bust down yet another myth. New episodes drop every Friday at 12:30 Pacific. Until then, keep leading with love.